The best way to get better at programming is to practice. And in this example, we're going to get attendee names that are going to be entered into the console and then save those names to a file that can be used later on. As always, this starter file is available for download. Use a link in the description below. We'll pause for a couple seconds so you have a chance to download it. Then you can follow along with us. Alright, so let's get started. So I've got 3 includes here. IOStream for working with the console, FStream for writing with our files and working the file stream, and then string because we need to collect the first and last name, which means that there's going to be a space separator. So we can't use the regular CN. Instead, we're going to need to use getLine. There's 2 variables I'll need to create. First, I'll create a string called name, and then I'll have an output file stream. I'm just going to call this output. And we'll pass in the file name that we want to work with, attendees.txt. We'll use a loop in order to go and continually get information from the user. That way we don't have to start up the application. Let's wait for them to type in exit to be able to exit out of the application. However, since this has to run at least one time, we're going to use a post-test while loop, which is the do while. So I'll specify do. I always like to write my while condition first before I do my body. So I'm going to specify while name is not equal to exit. Inside my do loop, I'm going to put a prompt. So I'll say cout. Please enter your full name. And then I'm going to have to use the getLine in order to get it because it's the full name and we'll have spaces potentially. Notice that in our prompt we didn't say put exit to enter. We're going to assume that maybe this is at like a trade show. Someone working the booth, they'll know how to shut it down. We don't want to give hints to other people. That's fine. However, since exit will be like a keyword, we don't want to put that into our attendees.txt. So what I'm going to do is very simply write an if statement. So say if name is not equal to exit. Then we're going to write it. So we'll say output name, and then we'll do an inline character. We'll then go and test to see if we need to do this again. That's all we really need inside of our do while loop. So I'm going to come down here and I am now going to specify output.close, and that closes out our file. Let's go ahead and run this real quick. Put in Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and then we'll exit. We don't need a whole big long list. I have my information just as I was hoping. Okay. Let me come over here and let's run this again. Let's say it's a multi-day conference. If I run this again and I put in a couple more names, and then we'll exit. What you're going to notice is that the new names are there, but the old names got wiped out. That's because we're opening the file in write mode. Write mode writes over whatever was already there. We really want to open it up in what's known as append mode. So what I'm going to do is come up here to line 30 where I have my OFStream output, and I'm going to put a comma after my file name. So the next thing I'm going to do is tell it what mode to put it in. Now there's a number associated with it, and I could go ahead and try to figure out what that number is, and there's lookups, I could figure that out. Or I could use the prefix that's already there for me, so I'll use that constant that's there. Now one of the interesting things is it's not just any constant, it's actually something that's inside of a namespace. So I'm going to have to specify the namespace because it's different than standard. We define that we're using standard up on line 25. And since this is different than standard, we have to define it, and it's iOS. So input output stream, that's what iOS stands for, colon, colon. Now we have access to what's inside of that. Well, I'm going to use APP. That's short for append. Now if I run this, and let me go and put back those first two names. Reed Richards, Sue Storm, then exit. Now if I come over here to attendees, notice it has the first two names and the second set of two names. So we appended the data. If the file did not exist and we said append, it would create the file for us. So append mode is very useful for us to use. Just kind of depends upon what are we trying to do. Do we need to overwrite that file? And sometimes we do. Then we'll just open up normally. Do we need to append the file? Well, sometimes we do, in which case we now have a method to do that as well. If this example helped you, please consider liking the video. Also, look at other videos inside of this series to learn how to get better at programming in C and C++.